Hi, this is DarkFox127 and welcome to another Skyrim Creation Kit tutorial video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at how to make your very own build your own home system. So this is going to work very similar to the way that the Hearthfire system does, but this is going to be my very own script, and it's also a lot more up to date than the previous video on this that I actually did. Now, if you're not too familiar with Papyrus scripting, then I strongly recommend that you go ahead and check out my earlier videos on Papyrus scripting just to help you get your foot in the door and know a bit of the basics, because I won't be recovering a lot of that in this video. So let's hop in the creation kit and get started. So for the purpose of this video, I have gone ahead and created a test ESP, which is just a basic house. It's nothing special, but it will get the job done. And I've even done an interior, linked the doors together and just done some quick nav mesh, and it's based just outside of Riverwood. Now, just before I get started, I'll mention that this is going to be a resource available on the Skyrim Nexus on my resource page and also my website. The links will be in the description below, and it will require Hearthfire. Although you don't really need to use Hearthfire for my script system to work, it is recommended because it has a lot of resources which are going to be at your disposal, which is going to make life a little bit easier. So the first thing we need to do is create our very own crafting system, which is separate to the Hearthfire one and every other one out there. And the way we do that is by going under miscellaneous and keyword, and first off creating our very own keyword. So I'll give that a unique name. DF127 keyword craft. Then you want to go under world objects, furniture, and I'm just going to search for the carpenter's workbench from Hearthfire. That's probably the easiest thing to use. Give that a unique ID. And you're going to want to go ahead and confirm that and create a new form to begin with. Otherwise, some weird things are going to happen if you don't confirm it first. One of the things being that the script and other things that you change might not change when you sort of confirm it for the first time. So just confirm it and reopen it basically, just to avoid that issue. Now I'm going to keep the name how it is, keep these settings how they are perfectly fine. I'm going to remove that script because my system works a little bit different to that. And I'm going to remove their keyword, which would have added all of the constructible items from the Hearthfire system onto this workbench. That's not what I want, so I'll remove this build your own home building carpenter keyword and add my own in. So craft, hit OK, and then I'm just going to mention how this is best to work. Now the best thing to do is if you've got multiple items that are going to be enabled at any given time, so the perfect example here is the house is going to be the first thing that's going to get built. You've got the door, the actual house itself, and you might have other parts of the structure. So I'm selecting the house, hold control, click on the door, hit the batch button, which is the dash on the keyboard, set enable parent, there's the things that you've currently got selected. Hit select reference in render window, double click on the X marker, hit do, and you should see very faintly, if you can just make that out, there's an arrow pointing to say that those have linked up successfully. Now obviously the X marker is going to need to be initially disabled to begin with. I've given it a reference so it's easy to find. And that means that this won't be here to begin with, so it'll essentially be like that. I've got a tree there I've just got out of the way. Now if I just go inside, I've got a few items in here. Now I'm not going to go and do all of these in this tutorial. I'm just going to do a couple of them just to show you how the crafting system works. So let's go ahead and do the bed. So this again is going to be initially disabled, and we're going to pretty much give the illusion that you're crafting this. So I'll go under items, misc item, alt click new and create one. Give it a unique ID. Double bed. Now what I like to do is put in brackets the time that it's going to take to craft. Just gives the user an idea, or the player an idea I should say, of how long it's going to take. So 3 hours don't just pass and then they wonder where they went. Now the weight is best at 0 or very low. Otherwise, if you are close to your carrying weight limit, then this will be added into your inventory. Say it costs 20 and pushed it over. You'll get a bit of an immersion breaking notification that you're being encumbered, even though it's then quickly remove right after and you're actually not. And the value, I like to put this at something because it looks a little odd if you've got multiple things in the menu all sort of worth nothing. Playable is really best to be ticked, and the keyword we're going to add our very own, so it'll be our craft keyword. Oh no, it's not, sorry. It's actually going to be one of the build your own home keywords, so just put in category or cat E. And this judges where in the menu it goes. So we've got exterior, furniture, shelf, weapons, containers, building, smithing. Now in this case it's going to be a piece of furniture. So we'll go into furniture. And as you can see, we haven't got access to the script yet. And I'll just confirm it before I do the model as well. So hit OK and reopen that. So that's the same sort of thing that we had with the carpenter's workbench. So the script I've already gone ahead and done. So if I hit add, and we'll get a little error if we've got the DLCs loaded sometimes, just hit yes to all and ignore that, it's not important. And then I'll just add the script that I did earlier on. But before I do that, I'm just going to do the model. Now, a good reason why to use the Hearthfire ESM is because it has all of the resources, such as the already set up crafting items, if you like, for the menu. So if I just search bed and you go preview, these will appear. I'll just tap G there to get rid of the ground. That's a nice trick that a lot of people don't know of. This is pretty much how it's going to appear in the menu. So these are set up where the camera's facing the right way to begin with. So it'll be facing that way. Now, sometimes if you use some of the vanilla things like the existing vanilla bed, it'll actually appear in the menu that way and it'll look wrong. And you'd have to be doing some NIF scope to try and fix that. But I'm not going to be doing that in this tutorial. I'm just going to use the Hearthfire ones because it's nice and easy. So I'm going to use that one because that'll look right in the menu. So I'll select the model, Control and C. Go into model here, model file name, make sure under the meshes in your Skyrim data folder. Click on file name, Control V, hit open, and you should have the bed there. Now the script I'll just quickly try and explain. We have multiple enable references. Now you can have as many of these as you like, you can add more in if you like, or you can just stick with the one. Now the reason I've got multiple is because sometimes you'll be enabling a bunch of items and you can link them to an X marker and they'll all stay as the same state. But sometimes you'll have a few references that you need to enable initially that are actually going to change state later on. So for example, I have things like curtains that you can swap in and out, but when you first craft them, a single set of curtains are going to go up, but they're going to be disabled later on. I don't want them linked to an X marker copying its state, otherwise it would flick straight back when I try and disable something. It might just enable it again. So that'll make more sense to people when they get in that situation themselves where they have references that are going to change state. So for now, you don't really need to worry too much about that. Now I've got global TS for the time screens. Time screens are a little feature of mine that I've made up where it plays a short video, basically coming up with something along the lines of 1 hour past, 2 hour past, and I have a video on how to do your own Bink videos, which you can view on screen now. And that's pretty useful for just adding your own little short videos into the game, and that's what I like to call my time screens. Now you don't need to use this feature with my script, you can disable this and I'll show you how to do that. We just go under miscellaneous, global, click new, give it a unique ID. So TS. Now if you don't want to use this, keep that as 0. If you do want to use it, put his as 1 and then go and watch that video on how to put them in. So I'm going to keep it off for the purpose of this tutorial. Then I've got game hour here. That's just the normal global variable property, the universal one used by the game to know what current time it is. And then we've got float property time. This you're going to set yourself for how many hours are going to pass when you craft the item. Then we've got the MISC object property craft item. This is itself, so this ID. Now the reason I haven't done self.disable is for some reason it doesn't like to remove itself unless it's stated itself as a reference. Quite weird, but that's the way it works. Now the event is fairly simple. The first thing that it's going to go ahead and do is detect that this item's been added to the player after they've crafted it. Then it'll do its thing and remove itself. So this is only a temporary token, if you like, just to get the item to be crafted and give the illusion of having made something. But the first thing it does is check to see if time screens are enabled. If they are, it'll use the function, check how many hours you've selected. If you want to go over 5 hours, you'll have to add these in yourself. And as you can see, it'll do the play Bink. Again, that video will show you how that works. And you just put the name of your own in here. And that's the full name there. Now, if you don't have time screens on, it'll just do a normal screen fade out. This will give the illusion of time passing and also covering up the enable of items if when you're on the workbench you're facing the things that you're crafting. Otherwise it'll look a bit funny when they just pop in. Then what it'll do is by whatever time you set, it will add that onto the current game time. So time will pass enable all, it'll use that function to enable any references that you set. You don't have to fill all of these in if you don't want to. You can just leave a load of them and just use the first two, for example, or even just the one, and it'll do that and just ignore the rest if there's nothing filled in. Then it will just remove itself, like I said, from your inventory, and the script will end. So that's how the script works. Fairly simple and very useful. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill in my properties for this noble bed. So I'm going to state itself, craft noble bed. The reference will be the bed. Make sure that's initially disabled as well. Then we've got game hour here. That'll autofill. This is going to be the global variable we just made. And the time I'm going to have as 3. So hit OK there. OK there. And then the next thing you need is a constructible object. This is going to add it to our very own menu system. So Alt click New. Give that a few seconds. Sometimes it takes a while to load. And I'm just going to give that an ID. Noble bed. Items, let's just say 2 firewood. And if you want to use some of the Hearthfire stuff, then just type in BYOH material. And you should see them show up here. So I'm going to use some nails, 2 sets of nails. And I'm going to look for linen wrap. Now, as funny as it is, linen wrap does not come starting with L. People tend to have a hard time finding this. It's Ruins linen wrap. So I'll just use one of those. The created object is, of course, the misc item that we just made, the noble bed. Create only one of them. And then the workbench keyword is our very own keyword there, df127 keyword craft. Now conditions are very important. What we don't want is for this to remain in the craft menu after we've made it, so we have to put a condition. This condition has to be met for this to appear in the menu. So in this case, we're going to put get disabled. We want this to appear when the bed's not there. So get disabled, reference for run on, select the bed, and then keep that as 1. So yes, get disabled. The bed has to be disabled. Then once the script fires off and it enables the bed, this is no longer valid and it's removed from the menu. Now, the next condition that I need to place on here is to make sure that the building has been created first, but I'm going to have to go ahead and make an actual item for the building as well and a constructible object. So I'll just go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I've gone ahead and set that up, and now what I'm going to do is go under the noble bed. And the other condition is that the house is built first, because you can't make a noble bed for a house that doesn't exist yet. So I'm going to alt click and new, put get disabled, and rather than checking that something's disabled, we want to check that something's enabled. So the way that you do that is use get disabled, put the value as 0. And then the reference is going to be the marker for what you need to check is enabled, in this case the marker for the house, and make sure it says and, otherwise it won't work properly, and tick OK. Now the other quick thing that I'm going to do, and I recommend that you do this for testing purposes as well, otherwise you're going to be sat there using the console command forever, is I'm going to go under container, find myself a simple container for testing. So let's have a look. Wanted something a little more appropriate, but I'll search for upper. There we go, that'll do. And then I'm going to put some of the items that I'm going to require for doing this. So I'm going to put about 20 firewood in. I'm going to put in the nails. I'm going to place in some stone blocks that I'm going to need as well. The Ruins linen wrap. And anything else that I might miss, I'll add in later on. But let's give this a unique ID. create new form, and then I'm just going to search for that. Now, as you can see, sometimes when you visit an exterior cell for the second time, things like the main structures disappear. So just hit F5 if that happens, and that'll reset the cell. Just ignore any errors that we're getting here. That's to do with NPCs in Riverwood. So there we go. Drag the container in. And the other thing I need to do, of course, is place in the workbench itself. And I'll place that in there. Make sure it's grounded correctly. And we should be good to go. So now I'm going to go in game and see our crafting system working. Okay, so as you can see, we are in the cell now and the house is not there to begin with. And if I just go on the workbench, we've got the house on here as well. Now, what I also went ahead and did is I changed the image for the house to just the image of a general blacksmith hammer. This is what I usually use myself when I don't have a model that's appropriate for the thing that I'm crafting. And especially if I'm doing it for crafting something like a structure or something that's going to be hard to have its own mesh for in the menu. So as you can see, it's got the requirements, which I have out the test chest. I'll go ahead and craft that. The screen fades out because the time screens aren't on. And if we're in a third person view, as it is, I'm in first person using a mod for that. But if we're in third person view, we might have seen a glimpse of the house being enabled, but the blacking out of the screen managed to hide that. So the next thing that's now showing up, because the condition that we set is that noble bed, and as you can see, it did start off in the correct position, sort of viewing on the camera in the inventory. But if we'd used one of the vanilla ones, it probably would have ended up facing like that. So you want to try and use the Hearthfire ones where you can, because they're laid out properly with the camera angle and such. And as you can see, we can go ahead and craft that. If we turn around, we've got our house here now. Let's go inside. And our bed's been crafted as well. So that's pretty much our crafting system up and running. And that brings us to the end of another Creation Kit tutorial video. So I hope you found it useful. Please let me know in the comments section below. Also, you can check me out on my social media. On Facebook is where I post most of my things, and you can also check out my Steam group if you want to be able to follow things like my Twitch when I appear live. I usually have notifications pop up on there in the form of events and such. Please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.